Here's the truth about what happens when you stop drinking. You're inevitably going to go through certain phases of your sobriety that you just can't get out of. It's plain fact. Certain things are going to happen. They're going to happen in a certain order. The timing of each event or phase might differ depending on where you are or what your situation is, but there are certain things you're going to go through. I went through them. Many people I know have gone through them, and they still go through them. It's kind of a wheel, but there is a starting point. Um, I'm going to kind of describe exactly what I went through and the different phases that I believe are kind of universal. Again, the timing of these things or a period of time you spend in each one of them is definitely going to be different. But what happens in the beginning of sobriety? You've lost your best friend. I've lost the thing that has helped me cope with life for the longest time, and I am full of fear because I don't know what I'm going to do now. I don't know how I'm going to deal with losing a girlfriend or going into a new situation where I'm full of fear of meeting new people. How am I going to deal with that? I used to drink. You pregame the party, then you have the party, then there's the after party, and every time all of those situations, I'm in fear of other people, so I drink to mask that fear. But this is all from my experience. I got sober. I had full of that fear that I was talking about. Always constantly feeling alone, like I don't know what to do. I'm trying to stay away from all those friends and drinking buddies that were not good for me, that I can't stay away from. Even when I'm trying to stay sober, those are the only people I know. So I'm sticking around with things that I know as well as trying to not drink, and it's not working. I tried that. I tried not drinking around my old friends and around the old situations and the old places, and I just couldn't do it. So now, that last time I stopped drinking, I knew I had to cut everything off, but I was full of fear. I didn't know what to do. So what I'm going to try and do is explain what I did in the little phases that I went through, different periods of time and some experiences I've had. So hopefully you can have an expectation of what's going to happen in early sobriety, the first couple months, maybe the first 6 months, that first year, what you're going to go through and what you're going to feel, what you're going to have to feel. Great thing about getting sober is, you get your feelings back. That's also the bad part. You get your feelings back. Now we get to deal with how we deal with those feelings. What do we do with them? We can't drink them away. We have to feel them, but you don't have to feel them alone. You've got to find some other people that are on this sobriety path that you can share those experiences. You can share those thoughts, that hamster wheel that runs around. You got to share that stuff and get it out of you so you don't go to the drink again. And for me, if I drink again, I don't know if I'm going to make it back. Last time was pretty ugly. I was pretty close to death. So drinking it's an option. It's not a very good option. All right, so what are the phases? There are 5 of them. It's kind of in a wheel. You're going to go around the wheel. First one's shock. Second one is an adjustment period. We're adjusting to a new period of life, new actions, new way of thinking, how to deal with situations, and basically how to deal with life without drinking. Then you're going to come into some sort of stabilization, the new thoughts, new actions around what do I do with all these drinking thoughts that I have, or what do I do when I have a drinking dream? Just because I've stopped drinking doesn't mean I'm going to stop thinking about it. Doesn't mean I'm going to stop dreaming about it, and it doesn't mean that I get to erase all those memories. So after we've stabilized some things, we're going to go through a period of boredom where I felt like, well, this is great, but is this it? I've stopped drinking. Life seems to be good. I got the job back. The wife is happy. The girlfriend's happy. Whatever that relationship looks like is going well. And, I'm bored. Is this it? What I want to be happy. I want to be, smiles all the time. It's just not what it is. So we get bored. And what happens when we get bored? We start looking for things to spice up life. Generally, I'll start to self-sabotage. But recognizing that I'm in that boredom phase is going to help determine the next phase. And that phase is either going to be going through a brief period of shock again, like I've been sober for X amount of time, a year, 2 years, 3 years, and I'm starting to really think about drinking again. So I might shock myself with those kind of thoughts, but we'll roll right back into the adjustment and stabilization periods again. Or you go through boredom and you don't do anything and you get really bored. You get really lazy. You stop doing the stuff that you did before and you don't realize it, and all of a sudden you drink again. And then you'll be right back to the shock and adjustment and stabilization again. But, all right, so shock, adjustment, stabilization, boredom, and then back into that brief period of shock that you're kind of shocked that you're there again, and adjustment and stabilization. A lot of people go through years of really good sobriety, and then they hit that boredom phase, and that's kind of when it happens. Some say 5 years, some say 7 years, some say 2 or 3 years. It kind of depends on you and what you've been doing to maintain your sobriety. So let's go into it. So shock phase, everything is brand new. Life hurts. It is painful, and I have nothing to mask it. I can't drink it away. I can't really hide anymore. All those things that I was doing while I was drinking, have brought me to this point. I'm at a bottom, and I've got nothing left. Again, I might be shocked that I'm here again for the 4th, 5th, 6th, 10th, 100th time. I told myself numerous times I have to stop drinking. I tried to stop drinking, and every time I got drunk again, I was shocked that I got drunk again. And every time I tried to stay sober again, it was shocking how painful it was, even though I had tried it before. And it's ugly. I'm shocked with all the new feelings I've got, because I get to feel these feelings now and somehow get to identify with them, and I don't know, it's awful. I've never felt so much shame and guilt and remorse as I did when I first got sober, because I couldn't drink those feelings away. All that bad stuff that I did to other people, and all of that guilt that I was feeling internally from doing it, and all the shame I was feeling verbally from other people, telling me what a terrible person I was. I couldn't show up, or I would show up and I'd show my ass, and those aren't good feelings. And I used to be able to drink those away or just avoid them, and now I can't. So knowing that I'm gonna feel those things, people told me early in sobriety that I'm gonna feel those things, and that's okay. You have to feel them, because it's the only way you're gonna get through them. Let's see what we got here. There are more fears and feelings, and that I'm really not going to get into. Everyone's got their own, but you're going to feel all that stuff. And it is, again, it's just shocking. So once we get out of that shocked period of my God, what are these feelings, and how do I deal with them? And God, sobriety is tough. You're going to go through an adjustment period of trying to adjust to a new way of life without drinking. You might roll straight from that ugly shocked period to a really kind of a cool shocked period where you're on what some people call a pink cloud. Like, just because you stop drinking, you might feel better. You might get a little, some color back in your skin. And it's shocking that just stopping drinking, what you can accomplish, or what it looks like you can accomplish on outwardly. Just because you might lose some weight, or you might gain some weight. I came in, I was like a good 30 pounds underweight, so I gained some weight, and that was good and shocking. But the adjustment period is really where we learn how to live life without drinking, feeling the feelings of life, going through the motions of dealing with everyone else. I've had people pass away, I've had broken relationships, I've had new relationships, job changes, poor performance at job, good performance at job. Those are adjustments. How do you deal with the good stuff? Because I found in sobriety, when I watch other people go out, a lot of people go out from the good stuff. Things are going great. Things are going about as well as they could ever get. They're in that boredom phase. Like, is this it? Things are going great, but I don't really need to do the things that I needed to do in the beginning to stay sober. and they kind of fall off, and they get kind of bored with maintaining things, and they're getting used to the good life that sobriety, the things that sobriety has given them. And a lot of them go back out. But there are also a fair amount of them that shock themselves into, oh my God, I'm about to go back out. I'm having those drinking dreams, I'm having the drinking thoughts again, and everything's going great. But they realize they stopped doing some things that they started doing in the adjustment phase of their life. So, biggest part of that adjustment phase, you got to find a new routine. Everyone's got a different life routine. Routines they got into while they were drinking, whether they were, routine always included hiding drinking. How much was I gonna, be able to sneak, and where I was gonna be able to sneak it. Some people, use different rooms of their house. Some people use their car, sneaking out to the car, to the garage, to that other room, whatever it was to make sure they could get that drink. Those are routines. Those are habits. We got to have new routines and new habits that are around positive things, like old hobbies we gave up when we started drinking because it interfered with our drinking, or new hobbies that we didn't really even know that we liked. We see something on TV, it's like, oh, well, that sounds good, I'll go try that. Or something you've always thought about doing that you've never tried because it would interfere with your drinking. New routines with the kids if you have them, or with the new relationship, or just anything new that doesn't revolve around drinking or planning drinking. A lot of people spend tons of times in the bars. Well, the new routine doesn't include bars. That's easy. If you did a lot of drinking at the house, you got to be at the house, but you got to find new routines around the house. Definitely got to clear the alcohol out of the house, out of the car, out of the garage. It's got to be gone. So that way, at least you have some time. If you do get a case of the efforts and you want to go drink, you at least have to go get it. And if you have time to go get it, you'll have time to adjust to a new way of maybe reaching out for help. Just reaching out to a friend, say, hey, I'm having a rough time. I'm thinking about drinking. What do I do? The internet's fine for reading daily affirmations and sending a private message to someone on a Facebook group. But you've got to wait around for a message. You need some live people. You need someone you can call. When those thoughts come up, I never wanted to let anyone know that I was thinking about drinking. So my big adjustment was actually being able to reach out and call someone, let someone know how I was feeling. That was less uncomfortable than my last drunk. I remember my last drunk, my last day or so of active alcoholism. I never want to forget it. That was 27 years ago in February. So I'm right after an anniversary. I remember it like it was yesterday. I don't want to go back to that pain. So finding other people that can support you is a huge deal to this adjustment period. You're going to lean on them. They're going to lean on you. It's a support network. You can't get around it. You got to have it. You can't. I tried everything I could on my own to get sober and to stay sober. I could always put down the drink for a period of time. I could never stay away from it because I would never let anyone know what was going on with me. I would never reach out for help. I was too full of pride and ego and all of that stuff that said, I'm okay, I can do it on my own. And that thinking almost got me killed. I was going to do it myself. Towards the end, I was physically dependent on it, so I may have done it by accident, if you want to call it that. But my alcoholism drove me to suicide. So there's nothing I can do to get around that. If I go back to drinking, it's going to get right back to that quick. All right. Let's see what we got here. Reaching out to others when you're thinking about drinking. Yes. Saw some notes. Make sure I don't screw up anything here. Another big thing about getting rid of that shame and that guilt and that remorse for things that we did in the past. This adjustment period has got to be where I own up to my actions. Never would I ever, in my drinking, truly admit where I was wrong in a situation. I might apologize or say I'm sorry just to get you off my back and to get you thinking that things were better with me and I won't do it again. I always did it again. But the only real way to get past that is I can't change it. I've done things, but what I can do is stop judging myself on those things. And the only real way for me to do that is to try and make amends for them. I've got to go reach out to those people that I wronged, admit that I was wrong, and ask if there's anything I can do to make it right. That way, when I pass that person in the grocery store or at the 7-Eleven or pass them in the movie theater or in the Walmart, whatever, I don't have to duck the aisle because, oh God, last month I did this to that person. I can't face them. You may have still done that, but if you've apologized to that person, regardless of whether they accepted the apology or not, you've done your part to clean up your past, and you can hang your head up high. That's a huge adjustment. I've never done that kind of stuff until sobriety. But you know what? As uncomfortable it is to admit where I'm wrong, I'm able to hold my head up high now, knowing that I've done those things, but I've also made the best of it and tried to make amends for that. And the last part of this adjustment period is knowing those things I have done and used to do while drinking and try not to do them sober. I can definitely ruin a relationship sober. I can definitely run my life based on self-will and self-centeredness and just turn good things into mud, whether that's at work, in the house, in a relationship, with my kids, the dogs, whatever. I can make the same mistakes sober that I was making drunk if I'm not watching myself. So, self-awareness, that's the adjustment. So, next phase is stabilization. What happens in stabilization after several months of adjustments? Could be a year, could be 6 months of sitting in that stabilization period or adjustment period. You'll get into some sort of stabilization where you've already adjusted to feeling feelings you've never felt before. After the first year or so, you've felt a lot of feelings. You know what those feelings are, hopefully, and you know healthy ways to deal with those feelings. And the most healthy way to do it is to tell someone else that you're feeling them, and then tell someone else that you're feeling it. Every time you tell someone, you cut that feeling of fear and that anxiety, you cut it in half. So you call one person, you tell them, it cuts it in half. You call a second person, you cut it in half again. You keep doing that. And that's, ego deflation. I know I don't know everything. I know I'm not supposed to not feel. Everyone has feelings. Everyone needs help, especially if you're trying to stay sober. And again, stabilization really has nothing to do with, stopping drinking or, you're always going to think about drinking. It just gets less, a whole lot less. It does get a whole lot less. I've been sober 27 years, and it occasionally I have a thought where, a gin and tonic would be nice right now. But those feelings, those thoughts are very intermittent, but they do happen. And if I'm not careful, I might get scared by that. And I might keep it to myself, saying, oh God, I'm 27 years sober and I'm still thinking about drinking. Why? What's wrong with me? There's nothing wrong with you. If you're thinking about drinking in 3 months, 3 years, 30 years, there's nothing wrong with that. You're not responsible for that first thought. You are responsible for what you do with that thought. I can think about a drink, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, okay, I just thought about drinking. What do I do with that? Well, part of that adjustment period is you call your network. You call someone and tell them. You tell on yourself. Let someone else know. It is not weak to let someone know that you are struggling. It is not weak to let someone know that you've thought about drinking it 10, 15, 27 years of sobriety. It's not. I'm an alcoholic. That's my main source of dealing with life. Drown it with alcohol. You can't get around it, but you can do it less. You can do all the things that during that adjustment period, find that network, telling on yourself, becoming a little more self-aware about how you're thinking, how you're showing up, how your actions are affecting other people. all of that stuff leads to stabilization, where things are going great, man. I've been sober for, a year, 2 years now, 3 years. I've got that new routine is kind of locked in. I've got, new hobbies. I've got new play places and play people. I've gotten not rid of the old people, but, they just disappear. And that's an adjustment period also. When you stop hanging around the people that you've been hanging around with for years that you found out are actually toxic. I had to get sober to realize that. That's an adjustment also. So now we're into this, new people, new places, new things, new routines. We've gone through new feelings that we've never felt before. We can put names to them. We can talk to people about them. We can talk to our closest confidant, whether it's a wife or a relationship or a best friend. It's all of these new routines and period of stabilization really reduces all those thoughts of drinking, or that drinking will make this go away, or this will feel better if I start drinking. All right, let's see what we got here. All those new routines definitely going to help fill time. That was one of my danger spots in early sobriety. Was I've got all this downtime, or where I used to go here and get drunk, and now I'm sitting on the couch doing nothing. New routines really help that those periods where I've got nothing to do. And when I've got nothing to do, I'm in my head, and in my head is a bad place to be. Even with long-term sobriety, it is a bad place to be. Just ask my wife. And also this period of time, the stabilization, we've been doing things sober for a long period of time now, year, 2 years. There's going to be an identity shift in that. Not only for me judging myself less for all those things that I think bad things I did before, where I was judging myself, and that's how I felt like I was. I was all of these terrible things that I did. I'm not those terrible things anymore. I have done them, but I'm not them. I have a chance now, and again, stabilization period, a year, 2 years, something like that. I'm not that person. I've got a track record of not being that person. I've got a track record of, cleaning up my past, not making more wreckage of my past, current wreckage. I've got a new network of people. I've got a new network, a new routine of things to do. I'm more present in my relationships, whether that's in the home, outside the home, at work, wherever those relationships are. I'm more present, and I'm able to participate. Other people are going to start to see that too. So not only am I going to have an identity shift with my own perception of me, that identity shift is going to play over into other people's opinions or even thoughts of how kind of person I am today. And you'll slowly see that, some of those old people that weren't alcoholics, that you had pushed away based on your behavior, they might start coming back into your life because they've seen that shift in you. You're not a fall down drunk anymore. You're not that belligerent person that flies off the handle, or that person that knocks over stuff at the house, or I was a bedwetter. I haven't wet the bed since I stopped drinking. Those kinds of things. So all these things we learn in the adjustment period, when we get used to them, and we get some sort of routine around this new sobriety, things get stabilized. That's where people kind of get confused. Stable. That's, at some time we're going to start talking about the next phase, which is boredom. So things that are stable. We don't have these highs. We don't have these lows. Things might look, after a while, boring. But that's not the point of sobriety. It's not to get all these, it's not to have peaks at all times. It's definitely trying to avoid the valleys. But sobriety is not about, how high I can get and how long I can stay up there. Sobriety is consistency. And that's where everyone just kind of screws up, consistency isn't boring. Consistency is good. it allows me to be present in relationships. It allows me to be helpful with my own experience and trying to help someone else stay sober. And with that, I get joy. I don't get, top of the mountain elation or ecstasy or, and I don't get those valleys where I'm, depressed. Joy is in the middle. Joy is being content with what I've got and what's going on. But if we don't have that, if we get past that contentment and it turns into boredom because we think we need more, or we think we need something different, or God, do I really need to keep doing all this stuff of cleaning up the wreckage of my past? And since I'm human, I need to clean up the wreckage of my present as well, because I'm just as apt to doing something dumb sober as I was when I was drunk. But I get to make that right today. If I get past all that stuff and it's like, hey, I don't need to do all that stuff. I'm getting kind of bored and, I don't need to do that. That's a danger area. That's where relapse starts, is I'm getting bored. And boredom is an attitude. Boredom is not a state of physical anything. My wife isn't boring. My job isn't boring. The kids aren't boring. My perception, my thinking, that's the boredom. That's where, this is alcoholism is just as much a thinking disease as it is a physical illness. I can think my way right back into thinking that drinking is going to solve my problems, whatever they are, or drinking is going to make me feel better, or take the boredom away, or it would be fun. So instead of being boring, I might try a couple drinks because it used to be fun. As an alcoholic, I am incapable, on my own accord, of bringing up the suffering that I had when I quit drinking. Whether that was a week ago, a month ago, I can't bring that suffering to the forefront of my thinking with sufficient force to push off some of those thoughts of drinking. I can't do it. So what do I do? If I'm bored, well, there's one of two things are going to happen. You're going to stay bored and get drunk, or you're going to realize you're in that spot and you're going to do some review of what you've been doing. And you're going to find that you've stopped doing some things that you started doing in early sobriety to keep yourself sober. And the hard part is, I don't know why I stopped doing some of those things. I've had 3 or 4 periods of this boredom where I've been bored. And, the thoughts of drinking come back. They don't come back hard, but they do come back. And I luckily have had a strong enough, period of adjustment and stabilization period and routine and practice. Professional sports people practice all the time. I've had plenty of practice. So when game time hits and that thought of drinking is strong, I make a phone call. I also have had periods of time where that boredom, I've had to get back to basics. What did I do in the beginning? I had to get back to the feelings that I had in that shock period of fear of drinking. Because sometimes in that boredom, I've had a thought of drinking where it hasn't scared me. And that's even more dangerous because I'm even closer to a relapse than I realize. But so the boredom, if I can identify that I'm in that phase, and if I can, oh man, I'm having those drinking thoughts again and they're becoming more often, I need to get back to what I was doing before. I need to slide back into that shock period of, oh my God, I'm going to drink again if I don't get this stuff going. I might not be in that shock period very long, but I need to roll right back into the adjustment period and adjust again to new conditions. Things might have changed. The kids might be older. I might have a new job. I have new hours. I might be traveling more, traveling less. Periods of time and require different adjustments. I've had to adjust to life plenty of times over sobriety. But what I haven't done is drink over them. I haven't just said, screw it, I'm going to try it again because I think it's a good idea. I've always had that thought of that last drink, all those feelings of that last drink. I remember it like it was yesterday. If you never forget that last drunk, always keep it up there. So boredom can get right back into that shock phase for a quick second, but that last phase really, if it's a continuous circle, most people in long-term sobriety sit in adjustment and stabilization. That's where they are. Stabilization, adjustment, that's it. They're able to do that because their program is strong enough. They've had plenty of practice. They have that, not that it's a healthy fear, but they remember their last drunk and they don't want to go back. They were at death's door. Whatever that looks like to you, it doesn't matter. They were at death's door. They don't want to go back. So even if they've completely stopped doing everything, they just don't want to get drunk. At some point, they're going to adjust what they're currently doing back to what they were doing when they first got sober. Some of those same routines might look a little bit different, but they get back into the swing of things. They're getting back to telling on themselves with a network, and if they've left that network or let it go, they get back into calling those people. They get back into listening to other people about their sobriety and their struggles. They're talking to other people about their struggles. I went through this, and this is kind of where I sit. I sit in this adjustment stabilization period. So I guess it's 7 years, 7 years, 14 years. I haven't gone through one in my 20s yet, but at 7 years, I went through a period of, I've been doing this for 7 years now, and, things are good. I don't think I need to do quite as much. And then got married, had a baby. Father passed away when I was 29. That was shocking. That was a 6-month warning, 6-week warning. He got diagnosed with cancer 6 weeks later and buried him. That was a lot of stuff happened in those 7 to 14 years. Really was not doing a whole lot for my sobriety. Wasn't calling a whole lot of people. It kind of shut down a little bit. There were some things going on the home front that weren't so satisfying. So at 14 years, I called quits on the marriage because it was not working. What I did though was I went right back into that adjustment period. I was definitely bored. I was doing nothing for my sobriety. I needed to get back into the things I was doing before. I found a new sponsor because I did get sober in a 12-step program. But I got right back into doing what I was doing when I was first sober. And it helped me go through the divorce. That helped me deal with some of the feelings I had when my dad passed away that I wasn't able to go through. I was able to get back into helping others. The experience I was going through with being divorced, I was able to help some guys that were in my new sponsorship family do that. Because I was in a 12-step program and still am, that network was there. I just had to ask for numbers. I just had to plug back in. That was easy. If you're not into a 12-step program, great. You can definitely stay sober without a 12-step program. You can. I'm not going to say you can't. All I'm saying is I couldn't. But the ease that it is to find that network again within a 12-step program is a whole lot easier than it is if you're not. Finding people that are on this path of sobriety that you can, that are in your area that you can go to lunch with, you can call on the phone. It's a little more difficult, but you can do it. So I had to go through that adjustment of getting back plugged into the program, to being sober lifestyle. Everyone on the same path. It's a whole lot easier when you have people around you that are on the same path. When you call them up and say, I'm having a hard time, they know what you're feeling. They felt that way. They can listen. They can help you, tell you what to do. And then after, several months, a year or so of that readjustment, I'm back into stabilization again. And it's, 7 years I went through that, 14 years, and I was going through the divorce, going through that. And that's kind of where from my experience in watching newcomers and old timers, and the old timers sitting at adjustment stabilization, when we're all human, we all stop doing stuff that we used to do to stay sober. It's just what it is. But being plugged in with that community, people calling me out on my stuff, saying, hey, I noticed you weren't going to, I'm seeing you around a lot. What's going on? You're not calling as much. You're not being as helpful, and you're not, your service is kind of sucking. Having those conversations with people is hard, but I need that today. Long-term sobriety, I want to keep long-term sobriety. So uncomfortable conversations is what I want to have now from other people to me. I need to hear where I might be screwing up, or I might be lacking, or alcoholism might be able to sneak a toe in the door again. And if they can sneak a toe in the door, maybe another toe. My alcoholism is out in the parking lot doing push-ups. It is very, very patient. It will wait for the right time to strike. And if I am not ready for it, it will strike hard. All right, let's see. So just a quick recap, the different periods of sobriety that you're gonna go through that you really can't get out of. The shock period, where you just kind of, you are shocked where you are. You're here again, you're trying to get sober again. And this sucks, it hurts, all these feelings, I don't know what to do, life is over. Adjustment period of certain actions I have to take to stay sober. Finding a network, being able to tell on myself, being able to make amends for the things I've done, being able to identify what's going on and make sure I don't make current wreckage of what's going on, even because I can do the same dumb stuff sober that I was doing when I was drunk. Going through a stabilization period where those new routines of life are kind of setting in. There is actually happiness and joy, but we've got some consistency going on. And when consistency doesn't look like what I want it to look like in life, getting bored. And getting bored is dangerous. So what do we do when we get bored? Hopefully we can identify that and go right back into the adjustment stabilization period. So after boredom, we go right back into the beginning of that wheel again, a quick shock period of, oh my God, I'm here again, starting to think about drinking, or, life's not what I think it's supposed to be. And then, back to the adjustment stabilization, that cycle. Long-term sobriety, we'll stay in that stabilization and boredom. Get bored a little bit. If I'm doing a constant review of my actions, I'll know that I'm not doing certain things in my life that I used to be doing, and I'll get back into that. So I'll adjust real quick, do that, and I'll feel a little more stable in what's going on. So if you like what you hear, please subscribe to my channel. I try to put out some videos on all my experiences early in this thing. So please give me a subscribe, a like, drop a comment. If any topics you want to hear, please let me know. Hope you all have a great day.